We're back.
Hey,
Yeah. Um,
nice Star Wars shirt. I like that.
Thank you. All right, we've been a little bit MIA. It's been hard to line up. I know you've been super busy
Yes,
because you've been on set working on blank. We don't know
I
what it is.
can't
We can
say it.
only assume it's obviously
Can't say it.
you're working on the next. You're working on Amalgam, the movie. I think, right? They're probably. You remember
What's
Amalgam?
amalgam? Oh no, amalgam. Oh no.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
It's
what I'm
gonna be
working
a
on.
Wolverine slash
The
Batman
secret. Yes,
mashup.
the Wolverine Batman. Yes, it's going to be Hugh Jackman playing.
Batman with claws.
What is it? Batman with claws,
Yeah.
and then
Top
Chris Evans
secret
playing
project.
Super
Super
Captain America
Super
or
America.
whatever.
Captain America Man. Captain
Super
America Man.
America.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
don't know what Paul's
Yes.
working on.
Very
We
busy.
just know that
Sorry.
he's been very busy, working long days, long nights, back-to-back shows, films, whatever you call it a show, regardless, programs. So I'm excited to see whatever it's going to be whenever it comes out.
Yeah,
We get
I
to learn
rolled
about it.
from one giant superhero thing to another giant franchise thing.
Yeah. If you want
Right
to know
one right
what,
after. Yeah, I literally stopped one at like 11 o'clock at night, and then was in at 5 o'clock in the morning the next day.
if you want to know what Paul is working on and try to break him, try to crack him, leave a comment below. See if we can get it out of him. See what movie or show he's
No,
working on. What
don't want to get
secret
fired.
insider information he could leak. He knows it all. We bet. I'm
Don't
sure
want to get fired. I don't want to get fired.
it'll be his 15
That's
minutes.
funny.
Um, okay, so Paul doesn't want to talk about the
Okay,
stuff we should
so
talk about. So we're going to talk about two episodes, right? We're going to talk about Acolyte
of the Acolyte. Yep.
3 and 4. And it kind of worked out partly because I think there was not a tremendous amount to talk about with episode 3. So um
I mean, there's
I
a
don't know.
lot to talk about, but
There is, but
um,
like, you want to start it off?
yeah, okay. So we start with a flashback episode. The whole episode's basically a flashback, and we get to see young May and young what's her name?
OSHA.
Oshi,
OSHA.
Osha. So you get to see young May and Osha as kids, and you're introduced to this coven of witches, which I liked because I like witches. And at first, I was like, "Oh shit, they're Dothmore, they're Night
Night Sister.
Sisters." But then I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh wait, maybe they're not Night Sisters because they're not wearing red." And then they're like, they said something that they're like, they never, I don't think they ever say what witches they are. But I do believe that they sort of give a hint that they're like an offshoot of the Dothmore witches.
Yeah,
So
I don't think they're the
they
Knights.
could be part of the Singing Mountain clan, or there's a third faction that's on that planet that I love. There's a third faction on that planet. I love all the witches from there. So I always thought the Singing Mountain clan were bad force wielders too. I don't know. I
They're
don't know
the
what.
what are they called? The witches of Bendock of Benrock Bendock
Bendoc. That's what they are
Brendock.
called. Yeah,
They're
I
the
don't know what Bendoc
witches of
is, but
Brendock. Um, did you like? So okay, I'll say that I I liked the episode. I thought that of the three, it was my least favorite. I thought that the pacing was a little off for me. It was kind of slow. Like
yeah,
you were saying.
it was a little confusing to me.
Yeah, there was some
Like,
interesting things. There was one. I'm not a big fan of the like full episode flashback. I would have
right,
preferred even if they had kind of like bookends at the beginning of the end. Or
right,
I know I talked about it before, maybe just with you. I don't know if it was part of our episode that like Lost. You know, I'm going to mention that twice again this episode because I thought Lost did really well with the flashbacks. Like you had the current story going, and then you get these teases of like flashback, and you see how it shaped the character or how it like kind of applied to where they were in current day, and it was
right,
interesting
right.
and it was well done. This whole episode flashback was a little bit jarring. There was like a comment in one of the YouTube videos I watched, like of an overview or something, or And it was like the top comment was just like, I was watching this with my kid and they were like, what is happening right now? Cause like to a kid, they're like, what, where's all the characters I know, you know? And the other thing too is that I liked what they were doing with it, but I felt like they could have done a better job of teasing the like mystery of like just sort of being like, okay, like we're being fed a little bit of information. Like, who are these people? What is going on? What is, how does it apply? And like, what's up with May and OSHA? Like, they did a little bit of it, but I wasn't like at the edge of my seat, kind of like, what's happening? What's going on next? What are we going to learn? It was kind of like,
Right.
okay, this is okay. I think partly because so again, they're doing the Rashomon thing. We're seeing this episode is Osha's perspective of what went down from her point of view. You know, okay, I'll straight up say, like, clearly, we had May start a fire with a candle, and like suddenly the whole place is on fire. The core reactor explodes, and all the witches
Right.
are dead. Like that is not what happened. You
So
also see Master Torben now has like a scar, but they didn't do enough of like teasing, in my opinion, right? Like of like
okay.
showing
So
like that this is not what happened, Like
right.
they went from like point A to point B, and if you weren't really paying attention, you might just think like, okay, she started a fire and everything just kind of went down linearly, like everybody
I
died.
don't. I don't think so.
No,
I
and
think that
it's
they're
really
so
not what happened. What I just wanted to say is I don't think they did a good job of teasing that that's not what happened. Like they didn't
right.
lead me to think that. Like I got there on my own, not because of what they
Right.
presented.
Yeah.
I feel like I've gotten what you're trying to say. Great! But I figured it out. You didn't really communicate it to me.
Right. So all right. So here's where we started having some. I start having some issues with the show a little bit. And I like the plot. I have no idea where this is going. So that's intriguing. If you can keep me from knowing what the end is going to be, then I'm happy. But I had some issues with, look, obviously, when the two of them were in that room and things caught on fire, some crazy shit went down with the witches and the Jedi in far too fast of a time, unless it was planned. Now, it's all being blamed on the Jedi's, but in my philosophy, I don't think so. I think it was Carrie Ann Moss. I think Carrie Ann Moss was there to do it, and then for whatever reason, right, which
Wait,
we will then be revealed. And I think that the reveal, I think later on when the plot is sewn up, we will understand what happened in that room that led everybody to believe that the Jedi killed him, and that the Jedi killed him, and those witches, and that the whole fire was started. And I think it will be sewn up, but I won't be happy about it because they used just bad editing and purposeful misdirection, but not purposeful misdirection where like they eliminated information we should have and the plot should still be good, but they were just like, oh well, they didn't foreshadow well. They obviously cut some things out that they needed to that would have obviously been given the plot away, right?
yeah,
Which means it was either not written properly, not filmed properly, or not edited properly, because they're just saying, oh, you're just not going to get to see that, right? Because we want to maintain the mystery, right? And over the course of these episodes. But that's just not, it's like going into an Agatha Christie book and yanking out a whole chapter and throwing it in the trash and being like, here, read this book. You know what I mean? So to me, it was technically poorly done,
yeah, it could
story
have
wise.
been much better. And I know we're going to get to see probably May's perspective, and then we're going to get to see the
Right.
the Jedi, probably the truth of how it all went down. It's definitely intriguing. It's interesting. Now, one thing that I noticed, and we'll find out towards the end. I don't know if this was purposeful or like if it was just more of like a mistake. It seemed like the young May and OSHA were like kind of reversed, right? Like OSHA seemed like the dark one.
Yeah.
He was kind of like alone. She didn't want to be with them. She was a loner. She was always like brooding and depressed. And May was like, I want to like, I want to help. I want to be involved. I'm like excited. I'm like, I want to
Yeah.
be part of this. And I don't know if that was like on purpose so we can see, but it's interesting because there could be some very unique and interesting twists that like we wouldn't even theorize, right? Like I've seen other people talking about it, like an idea that like oh, maybe like May and Osha were switched, or maybe there's a weird thing with the force
I'm thinking it might be it could be a thing where OSHA is May and May is OSHA,
kind of,
right?
and I don't
But
know like how that would go down, or it could be a
I
weird
don't know
thing
how
with
that
the
works, but
force dyad that like their minds were switched, and or one really did die. I
yeah,
don't
or
know. And
something.
yeah, I don't know, it's
But
interesting.
to
And
me,
then go ahead.
so the thing that bugged me out was they're like, okay, well, this mystery of what happened in that room will be revealed. But I'm like, what mystery? Like, what happened in that room? It's like all we see is like non-dead people. We hear there's a fire and then dead people, right? So you didn't even show me enough for me to like be intrigued. You just emitted all the information from me, right? All of it. You just yanked out a whole chunk of film and chucked it on the floor, and you were like, well,
Well,
if we if we show them this, they'll be able to figure it out for themselves.
that's kind of what I
There's
was saying
also
is
something else.
the
I
tease
was saying
wasn't
there,
enough. Like they kind of just showed like, okay, Osha's escaping and now all the witches are dead on the floor. And like that wasn't
right,
enough of like to go like, whoa, what the heck happened here? Because they're kind of implying it. Obviously, we know it's not, but they're implying that, oh, it was
right.
just the fire killed everybody. And but like
Yeah, May set a fire, and then like that doesn't.
but like I
Yeah,
don't know, they're
you
just
if
they needed to give a little bit more of a, oh, hold on, like
they
what,
needed to
what happened in
show
that room? What's going on? Like
more.
I want to be able to like I want it to be one of those scenes where like I want to rewatch that scene and look frame by frame for clues, and
Right.
it wasn't
Yeah.
any
And
of
I
that.
think that they were afraid to write and do that because there's no way around revealing enough to that everyone will get it, right? So they just had to eliminate it. They had to eliminate it too much. Like they had to
Yeah, and
eliminate it.
there
It's like
are
I was saying to somebody on the internet, I was saying, this plot seems like it's too smart for the writers who are writing it. You know what I mean? Does that
sure,
make sense? Like not that they're bad writers, it's that in this medium, in this story with Star Wars, and in a thing that's for Disney Plus and a thing that's for all ages, you can't tell this story, right? So your hands are tied when you're writing something like this, that you're kind of hamstrung into doing things a specific way for television, for streaming, that I don't think this plot can fit nicely into. And I don't think that they know how to handle dumbing this plot down into something that's digestible through this medium. Does that make sense? So
sure,
all of
but
a
they
sudden it's coming
can
off as a lot of confusion. There's a little bit of confusion, and also they're committing one of my biggest sins, which is characters swapping motivation midway. Like
sorry. Yeah.
you can't tell me that May has an all-consuming desire to kill these Jedis and follow the path of this Dark Lord. And then all of a sudden she's in the jungle with the dude and she's like, oh, she has like a sudden epiphany and she's like, oh, wait, no, I'm a good guy all of a sudden. And
Yeah,
then also, like, you can't tell me that this Jedi master, this evil Sith master or whatever it is, demands only the highest discipline from his assassin, and then shows up 10 minutes early to murder the Wookiee so he can to murder the Wookiee himself when he told her to go and do it. Like, what are people doing here? Like I'm getting very confused with people's motivations. Like they're changing motivations more so than the Shang-Chi movie, which characters change motivations in that thing so badly. I was like, dude, I have not seen the father literally flip flops from a good guy to a bad guy like 8 times in that movie. It's terrible. But anyway, I don't want to
Yeah,
digress.
no,
But they're
we'll
starting to
catch
do
that
that
immediately
here.
out.
They're having characters swap motivations, and I don't like that. Like they're just changing motivations. You enter into a contract when you start writing something with your audience, and then you give them something to expect. That's not subverting the audience to just have the main character I'm interested in may be like, or have her just the main antagonist to be just like, oh, I'm a good guy all of a sudden. Like I don't have to follow what this evil dark lord. Like, oh, really? You didn't have that epiphany like before you killed the other Jedi lady? You didn't have that epiphany before you started to hunt down your sister? You didn't have that epiphany before you killed the guy in the room? You didn't have that epiphany any time over the last 15 years? You weren't like, oh, maybe I don't want to spend every day of my life brooding and being angry and then hanging out with this junkie guy who, like, what's his deal?
Well, I mean,
Like,
and that's interesting too, because like there's so many theories now at this point, right? You from the first episode, you were like, "Oh, I think the Dark Lord is going to be Indara, Carrie Ann Moss, which could be an interesting
yeah.
twist. We'll see." It, I very much hope it's just like a red herring because this last episode, they were really leading you into believing. At least my takeaway was that it was Chimere, Manny Jacinto, the Asian guy, the like, junkie that's like, because it's like, why is he even there? Why does he care? Why is he helping her along the way? Like suddenly, like the Dark Lord shows
Wait,
up.
you thought they were leading you to believe that he was the Dark Lord?
That whole last episode, absolutely. Yeah. That was like the big takeaway. But I feel like and very much hope
I never
that they're
thought that
kind
at
of like
all.
teasing that like he's I mean, he had this I was after I watched it with Marina, I was like, they're doing the whole kind of Yoda thing. He's like the bumbling, like doofy kind of like, sidekick, like that's like coming along and then turns out to be
You
like,
think they're going to
she's
pull a Kaiser Soze?
not or a
You're going
Yoda,
to pull a
really.
Kaiser
And it's
Soze with
just
the
like,
guy? Or
oh,
a
like
Yoda?
I cannot teach him. The girl's not ready, whatever. Um, and turns out like he's the Dark Lord all along. Like they're hinting at that, but I really hope that that's like a red herring and like they're not like, oh, it just turns out it was him. Because look, there's the
Well,
fact
we
that
know it now because he was hanging upside down from a tree, and
that
that's when
doesn't,
the villain appears.
yeah, but if he's a Dark Lord that could fly and has a lightsaber, like you don't think he can
What do
cut
you think
himself
he
down
did? You
from the
think he
tree?
got himself out of that? You think he got himself caught in that trap as a ruse so he could make everybody think he was a bumbling idiot, and then he ran
Totally,
off into the jungle and changed his clothes real quick and came back and he's like, "Ah, the jig is up. I'm not gonna."
100%, yeah. But like,
No way! Like,
I mean,
no.
I mean,
If that
no,
guy winds
not
up
for
being the
nothing.
villain, this will definitely be the worst Star Wars show ever. There's just no way.
I think it's a high
That's some
likelihood that
Scooby Doo level plotting.
well, that's the whole thing, right? This is a Scooby Doo show, and what's interesting is because there's no like characters that we know that like any kind of reveal of
Right,
like who the Dark
right.
Lord is. It's not going to be like it was so and so character all along that we knew from this show or from a cartoon or from a
Yes,
comic from a tie-in. So it has to be somebody that we've met, which it could
it
be
has to
Indara,
be. Yeah,
it could be
could be
one of the
Indara.
the
It could be the
mothers.
Green Lady you were saying, right?
It could be Vernestra, right? It could be
Oh,
which would be a
oh, it
twist.
could
It
be.
could be it could be Chimere, right? The like one who is like the kind of bumbling fool that's like part of like, oh, the Dark Lord's not going to be happy. Oh, you can't give up on the mission, like that's why I mean like they're kind of like teasing that it's him so much so
They
that
can't
I hope that
do that.
that's just like a red herring and maybe he's the Dark Lord, but he's not the real one. Like he's just like kind of
You
the
know,
Dark Lord's
okay,
assistant.
so far, the only two people it could be that will not make me upset is Endara or the Green Lady. And because they're both been in the show, they both could be manipulating things behind the scenes. Okay, so if it's the drug dealer guy, I just keep calling that because he just looks like a weird like alley junkie guy.
Yeah, kind of,
It can't be
kind
him
kind of.
because that would just be some Scooby. That would just be like Scooby Doo. He's like, I was pretending to be Kaiser Soze all along, like, and then all of a sudden at the end he reveals himself to be this master Sith Lord. That doesn't make any sense. And it can't be one of the mothers because if it's one of the moms, that's a total
It's too easy.
Deus Ex Machina because it's too easy because you've already told
Or
me
it's
they
too
were dead. Like
obvious.
that's the
Well,
thing
not
that you told the audience, right? The
not just
mystery
that,
is who
like,
killed these people.
because they're leading people into it, right? Like the one mother with the horns that's kind of like a Darth Maul, one
Yeah,
of the characters
Saber.
that race, like, is they're kind of like lining her up. She's got like this chip on her shoulder. She's kind of evil. She takes over Torben's body and, like, turns him into like a zombie for a minute until like the other mother's like, okay, release him or whatever. And so it's like she's already got
Yeah,
this like evil vibe to her. So it's almost like too obvious that it would be her. I've been alive all along, and she's pulling the strings. But I heard another
doesn't
one,
make
which
any
is
sense. Why
interesting.
wouldn't you? If you're the mother, why wouldn't you just reveal yourself? It's your freaking child. Like, why wouldn't you be like, hey, guess what? I didn't die in the fire. Isn't that cool? Part of our family's not completely destroyed. Let's go find your sister. Not, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to reveal myself to my daughter whose life has been destroyed by this. I'm just going to put on an evil mask and I'm going to guide her from afar to
Well, to be honest, I
be
mean,
my assassin's wield.
I think that's sort of like in alignment with her character, because she seems to be more of like a witch devoted to like their witch coven like ways and their religion than being like motherly, like, oh, my daughter, like, I'm gonna like embrace her. It's like, no, like, these Jedi killed our whole witch coven. I'm gonna like rebuild it. I'm gonna use my daughter's like hatred and whatever to like to like build her into this new witch that I to help take over and rebuild the witch coven and kill the Jedi and whatever. I feel like that's like on character for her, on brand.
That sounds like I would be very very upset with that because it just doesn't make any sense from a parent perspective. It doesn't make any sense from a plot perspective. It doesn't make any sense based on the contract that they drew up with the audience when I first started watching the show, which was this entire thing, the hatred of these two people and the destruction of these two girls' lives is predicated on the idea that this murder happened at their home that destroyed their entire coven. So if one of the people happened to survive and then all of a sudden just decides to go into the background and become some sort of hidden evil menace with a thing, it doesn't. I remember these witches were trying to get away from, characters like the Sith and the Jedi. So for one of them to just become a Sith or a Jedi or whatever it is,
Well,
an
hold
evil
on.
Jedi,
Hang
just so
on one
they
second.
can manipulate their daughter from afar, it
I
doesn't
don't
make any
think
sense.
I don't think they're like trying to get away from the Sith and the Jedi. I think what we're seeing, which I think is really cool, is that this is a time where you have other religions, other people, other factions that are tapping into the Force and in their own way, right? They're not like even calling it the Force. This witch coven calls it the thread. And
The thread
probably
or
what's
whatever, yeah.
happening is you've got the Jedi, who, the way that they've been presented in episode 3 of the show, are kind of like policing the galaxy, where they're looking at like anyone else that's trying to use the Force as unlawful, right? So they're coming around and they're like, hold on, like, unless you're a Jedi, you're not allowed to use the Force. You're not allowed to train people in the Force. That's essentially what they're calling dark magic. They think of as like the dark side of the Force, or even the witches. It's not even dark magic, they're just seeing it as magic. Oh, we're tapping into the thread. And the Jedi are like, nope, that's dark magic, dark side of the Force. We don't want the Sith to return. So it seems like that's what's happening, right? The Jedi come to this planet. They're like, oh, you train
Possibly, yeah.
kids in the ways of the Force. You know that that's illegal. And they're like, well, we're not under like your Republic law or whatever,
Jurisdiction, yeah.
under your jurisdiction. So they're just like, we're going to train our children the way we want. And it seems like, and that's where I think it's pretty cool, where they're sort of showing the Jedi maybe at their peak in one way, but also in this like gray area of like cops that have too much authority and they want to, and they're abusing it and they want to like tell people how they are or are not allowed to use the Force or live their lives or whatever, which I
Yeah,
think is interesting. So I don't
I
think.
agree with that. But I agree with that. I think that um, okay, so you got these witches, and you know what? I don't think that they gave birth to those kids. I think they stole them themselves.
Well, I mean, this is another interesting thing, and maybe, and that would be an interesting twist. But what a lot of people are sort of connecting, right? And I said before, like, I really don't. I hope we don't see Darth Plagueis, but one of the cooler aspects of that third episode, which was a little slow, but it was there was a lot of really cool connections, subtle, right? Not like, oh, we're going to just drop these Easter eggs for nostalgia, but a lot of the wording was the same with, some of the Star Wars movies, the unnatural use of the Force, and this idea of creating life, with which Darth Plagueis and Palpatine did to create Anakin. And it almost seems like this could be one of the precursors of, like, they're not Sith, but these witches have figured out a way to tap into the Force to create life, and kind of planting seeds as to how Anakin was created by Plagueis or whatever. And this is sort of like leading into that, right? Again, I hope we don't see Plagueis, but the kind of connection there between this particular episode and these witches and creating life. I mean, sure, maybe they did steal them or they did create them, and this is kind of like, hinting at like how that evolves into future Star Wars lore. I think like that's pretty cool.
What if Carrie Ann Moss is the villain, and what if she's the mother from the father, the daughter, and the son, the one with the big mouth,
Oh,
the creepy woman,
yeah, I
the
mean,
creepy
again, so
character?
then they're
That's
connecting this to Clone
and
Wars
that
and
would make
Rebels,
sense.
and they're
But
connecting it to
that
Ahsoka.
would make sense in the Dave Filoni going forward universe, that 100 years ago she was this witch woman, and whatever happens in this show ends her existence, and then there's the father, the son, and the daughter, but the mother character that I think they're alluding to in both the Ahsoka show and possibly in this one, because remember when you zoom in the camera on this character, she's got like kind of a on that villain, it's got like a helmet over its head, but it's got like a row of teeth along the bottom jaw looking thing, right?
Oh yeah,
Let me
that's
see
interesting.
the.
Yeah, that
What if it's that character? Yeah, what if it's that
yeah, Abeloth.
Abeloth? That's it. What if it's Abeloth? But Carrie Ann Moss is going to get to play Abeloth.
That'd be interesting. Well, and then there's another. Okay, so what happened during that whole scene where all the witches died? Who knows? But there's the possibility that, like, if it's not Indara, if it's not Carrie Ann Moss, then maybe the Dark Lord shows up then, and there's like a big fight and battle. And I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what gets revealed during that scene.
Yeah.
There's another one. So it's interesting because some of the theories.
Yep, that's my thing.
So
That's
some
my
of the
guess.
theories I've seen online kind of get like they kind of get negated by this last episode because Dark Lord shows up at the end and
Right.
everybody that's there is still kind of standing there. I I definitely like the end of that episode number 4 left me, it just Dark Lord shows up, blasts everybody back, and then it goes to credits, and I was just like, "What? Come on!" And
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I'm
But
glad,
I'm
but
telling you,
I'm
I think
excited to
it's
see the next
Carrie
one.
Ann Moss, and she's got a deeper connection to something to do with the witches, and I think she's going to get killed in this show, and it will leave room to open her up as Abeloth in the Ahsoka series.
Yeah, I mean,
That's my call.
it'll be interesting because, like, we really got to see what went down with how all those witches died, because she was there. Indara was with the Jedi, so it's not like she turns around and she's like, "Oh, I'm actually leader of all these witches," and fights the other Jedi because she's still a Jedi 16 years later when we see her, before she.
Yeah, why would she have done that? Yeah, she wouldn't have done that. I mean, what would be the point of being like, what would be the point of what would be that would be a very elaborately dumb plot to be like, oh, I actually was hiding. I was a an evil person hiding as a Jedi just so I can go in and murder these witches, just so I could separate these two twins, just so I could br-
Yeah,
bring one back and hide as a Jedi for 16 years, just so I could go undercover as this villain, just so I could train her twin sister,
yeah,
knowing where both of them are the whole time. What's the purpose of that?
yeah. I think
Maybe
we're
my
the
idea
plot
is a
will
little far fetched.
thicken. I'm excited to see that. I think we're gonna. I don't know. Again, it could be Vernestra pulling strings in some way. Who knows? I mean, there could be layers and tiers of like, oh, okay, this is, the Dark Lord, but that's not really who is in control. And like it could be like Chimera. And it's
Yeah,
like, aha, I've been the one giving you your directions all along. And then Vernestra comes and just decapitates him and it's like, yeah, but that was just like my accomplice, like,
yeah.
and it's like, I'm in charge
But
here,
it's got to be someone we've met before for sure. That's
Yeah, because it has
absolutely
to be a
essential.
Scooby Doo thing.
They
Like,
can't just yeah, they can't just yeah, they can't. It has to be Scooby Doo.
yeah,
It can't.
like, you
It
can't
can't
just be
be.
like,
It can't. You
"Ah,
can't just do sex machina and throw in a character at the end and be like, it was this character you never met before.
yeah, you never heard of, never met." Like, so the big reveal means nothing.
The big reveal means nothing,
Oh,
unless it's a character from the books, and then everybody will be like, "What? I have to read these books to know who this character is." That doesn't make any sense.
yeah,
But
and 12 people are gonna be like, "Oh, it's so and so."
yeah, yeah, yeah. 12 people are gonna be like Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at the screen. All right, so I'm still intrigued to see where the heck this story's going. I bumped up against the motivational switching of a couple of characters and things like that in this. Like you
I feel
can't
like
like there was
when I
one thing
say
that annoyed me.
it
What's
it's
that?
interesting, like, I feel like with that character switch, because I was I was like, "Oh, that's where okay. So where is this going?"
Yeah,
And I feel like there is a way where, especially if we get some sort of a weird, like, May was Osha, Osha was May switch or Brain, I don't know, like, it it could be in alignment with her character that, like, she switched motivations
I don't
maybe.
know. I mean, it all seemed very convenient. As six Jedi are walking up to try and save a Wookiee that's already been murdered, that May just also happens to be there, also with the drug dealer guy. I don't know why I keep calling him the drug dealer guy.
Kinda.
Also with the drug dealer guy and the villain, all just happen to be there at the very moment where she has this bizarre epiphany to just be like, "Oh, I don't have to do this. I can go save the Wookiee, or I can go do whatever the hell it is she's doing. But like, I can just, I don't have to be a bad person. I don't have to follow this Sith Lord." It just all seemed a little convenient that it was all happening right there at that one moment. All those things happened,
Well, I guess we're gonna see.
you
And
know?
actually back to that point with, like, Kymer, like, yeah, if he is one of the bad guys, the Sith Lord, whoever, it makes sense that, like, she was like, "You know what? I'm not gonna go kill Kalnaka. I'm gonna go confess my crimes to him and turn myself in." Then he was like, "All right, well, she's gone anyway. I'm just gonna go kill the Wookiee myself."
Yeah, that just doesn't make any sense. I mean, that would just be
I guess we're gonna see.
weird.
We'll find out.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. All right, well, I'm still intrigued by this plot line. I like it. I don't know. Again, I can honestly say at the end of this episode, I have no idea where the hell this story is going.
Yeah,
So
and
that's
it's
one of the
good so
highest
far.
compliments I can pay it. I haven't figured it out.
Right.
So that's fun.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll see where it
All
goes,
right.
and we will tune in and catch up.
We'll see you all next week. We will wrap up with the last. How many episodes of this season show are there? 8?
Yeah, I think there's
I
8
think
because
there's
we're
8,
halfway
right?
we're halfway through right now.
Okay, cool, cool. Yeah, maybe there's only 6, but who knows?
No,
But
no, there's
anyway, we'll
not
see
enough.
you after another couple episodes,
Yeah. All right.
and we will discuss it even further. And in the meantime, don't pay attention to the crap on the internet, except for the show.
Yeah. Leave a comment. Tell us how much you agree or don't.
And hit like and subscribe.
Oh, yes, please. That's always nice.
We never tell you to do that, but please do it for us.
Yeah, it helps.
Hit like and subscribe. Sure, why not? It
All
helps
right.
us.
Signing off.
See you later.